Well, we're at about 6 minutes past. I do think some folks will continue to join us, but why don't we get started? So, for those of you who I do not know, my name is Danielle Figuera. I'm the Director of Alumni and Parent Engagement at Landmark School. I've been here for 4 years, which is nothing compared to some of the tenure of my colleagues. And I'm absolutely thrilled that we have this opportunity to connect digitally and bring alumni from several decades together. We hosted a similar alumni town hall last week that was very well attended, and I expect this will be another great conversation. So, what we will do is we will introduce some folks. I'd love to get to know the alumni in the room a bit more. And then we will transfer to going through our program today, which we'll be hearing from Headmaster Bob Broudo. He has some updates for you, tell you what's going on with Landmark today, school as we know it, and our plans for the future. And then our board chair, Mr. Thilo Henkes, and parent of Rowan, who's a freshman at the high school, will give you some updates from the Board of Trustees and our head search and priorities going forward at Landmark School. And then we will hear from alumni trustee Harvey Alter, who's been on our Board of Trustees for over 20 years, a beloved volunteer and alumni. And he'll give you some ways you can get involved at Landmark and his story a bit. And then finally, I'll finish with other opportunities to get involved. So thrilled to have you all here. And I'll follow up this session with an email with all links and information, anything we mentioned today. So you can just sit back and enjoy and participate in whatever way is meaningful for you. And we'll give you all that information after the fact. So don't worry about copying anything down. So to get started, we've heard from a few introductions from alums as we were just opening up the call, but I'm wondering if we can play a bit of introduction tag where I'll choose an alumni to introduce themselves. When they were at Landmark School, that could have been 2 years in second grade, or when you graduated Landmark School, if that was the case, and then pick someone else in the grid so we can get to know everyone. And once we get through, we will pass it to Headmaster Bob Broudo to start. How does that sound? Great. All right. Can we start with Liz Lusky? Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes. Hi. So I was at Landmark for 2 summers. I don't know the years, but I was going into my junior year. No, sorry, my sophomore year, and then into my junior year. And then I went back. I stayed for junior and senior year and graduated in 1993. And what else do you want to know?
Where are you living?
I live in Los Angeles now, and I actually work with kids with learning disabilities.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm an educational therapist, so I have a private practice, and I have to say, everything that I teach my students is stuff, I mean, I've learned other things along the way, but I still teach so much of what I learned at Landmark. And I think my experience, sorry, I just woke up, so my voice is a little raspy. It's very early here. But I feel like my experience and the struggle that I had in school helps me to connect to my students. And it took me a while to figure out that this is what I wanted to do. I didn't go into college knowing that I wanted to work with kids with learning disabilities. And once I figured it out, it was like a light bulb. And I was shocked that I didn't know all along, because it just made perfect sense, you know? So I'm super passionate about what I do, and I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you, Liz. It's so good to hear that's continued in your professional life. We have several alumni faculty members that feel very similarly about the work that they do and being able to relate to our students. So thank you.
I'm sure.
All right, you're up. You get to pick who's next.
Oh, right. I'm trying to see. Did we hear, I guess, Eric. Let's hear from you.
Eric, you're muted.
I can unmute. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm not sure what years. I think it was 73 to 76.
That's about right.
Yeah, I think so. In Pride's Crossing. That's when Dr. Drake, I'd gone to the summer school actually in Hebron, Maine. Is that where it was, Bob? There was a
Hebron.
That's how I was first introduced to, when I was told in school, my parents were told I was a dunce. That's what they labeled it back then. Thank goodness we don't use those titles anymore. But graduated to dyslexia. So I went to the camp, went back into public school and struggled. So that's when my parents put me back in for, I think I was there for 4 years at the Pride's Crossing. Just, some good memories, some not so good memories, but I do know that set me up so I could go off to regular private school. Especially a lot of the teachers, my best memory were some of the interactions, some of the teachers with me taking that personal hands-on approach. So it was pretty amazing. But I've lost contact with a lot of people. So that's why I've been in touch with Bob about some of the alumni, and I'm hoping to reconnect to some of them. And I think I recognize someone's name. Stephen, when did you go to?
Yep, I was there the same time.
Yeah, I think I recognize your name. It's been a long time. You don't look any older though.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't believe you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what else you guys wanted to hear, but I have 2 kids. One's a nurse. One's graduating high school this year, going off to college, UNC Charlotte. And I have a granddaughter, which, like Bob said, it's hard to believe. I'm still having a hard time.
How's a student of mine have a granddaughter? Come on.
Yeah, it's crazy. And no, life has been pretty good. I don't know. It's just learned what I can do and what I can't do. That's probably what I learned from my experience, and found out what I'm good at. And I think most people that go through the experience at least I went through, finding what you're good at so you can pursue it, because we're all good at something. So yeah, no, it was a beautiful campus, I'll tell you that. Sleeping in that room with a marble bathroom, looking out over the ocean, that was kind of cool. But other than that, it's been I can't complain. My kids are doing well, business is good, so it's all good.
Wonderful.
Oh, am I supposed to pick someone? Because I know who I'm going to pick.
Yes.
Stephen, you're up, because I know I recognize your name. Now I want to hear your story.
There you go. Okay, thank you. Hey, yeah, I was there for a year and 1 summer. I struggled. I was in 8th grade. I was struggling in school. My parents found it. I'm from Connecticut, so it was a little bit of a schlep to get up there. But my parents brought me up, and I remember, as a 13, 14-year-old, I took the train from Pride's Crossing to Boston to Connecticut at that age, which is probably wouldn't happen these days. So I had a great experience at Landmark. I went from there to the Gunnery in Washington, Connecticut private school, and then on to Ithaca College, and then on to Northeastern Graduate School MBA. And I've got 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls, live in Needham, Mass. And I'm in the energy storage and battery business, and have been for about 30 years. And I owe a lot to Landmark. I have the same experience of people thinking that, I wasn't smart and I wasn't capable, and Landmark changed a lot of that for me. So I owe a lot to Landmark. And I do remember you, Bob, as well.
I remember you too, Stephen. We'll talk about that later.
Exactly. And so that's it. My turn to pick somebody. Let's see. It's hard to see people's names. Greg.
Me?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm Greg Carney. I was one of the original students. In fact, my association with Landmark goes back to before the founding of the school by several years. My father was a professional colleague of Dr. Drake. He was the one who actually arranged to use the Hebron campus that summer, but we were at other places scattered along the way, like Cushing Academy, and one very particularly difficult summer at Bates College, which turned out to be a really bad place to have a summer program. And once Landmark opened, I was sent there. I'm fairly profoundly dyslexic, and yes, I still use that term. And Bob Broudo was my tutor. Yeah, my language tutor in both in the summer program and then at those first years at Landmark. typical of the early students, you could not graduate from high school from Landmark in those years. You had to go somewhere else. And the somewhere else I went was Oak Grove Coburn, which doesn't exist anymore. It closed, unfortunately. It was a lovely school. I was married for 40 years to my late wife, who passed away last summer.
Sorry for your loss.
I have 3 children, 5 grandchildren. I am an editorial cartoonist, of all things. And I was the finalist for the Pulitzer Prize, which is like kissing your sister, it turns out. Nobody cares if you're a finalist for the prize. They only care if you win it. And for 5 years, while doing that, I was also supervised the conversion of the Australian Talking Book Library from tape to digital format. I became somewhat of a specialist in how talking book systems run, because I'm still dependent upon them even all these years later. I don't ever read for enjoyment. You know, like I'd rather go to the dentist than do that. So anyway, that's me. I just missed getting there and just missed being on that famous photograph of all the original students on that rock. I didn't show up till
hanging right up there on my wall, Greg.
Yeah, I didn't show up till like about 3 weeks later, if I recall, because my father was struggling with the school district about paying the cost. Let's see. Gee, I don't see anybody else. And oh, well, James, you're of my time period, also I'll hand it to you, but you're gonna have to choose somebody newer.
No, I was at Landmark about the same time that Greg was, 71, 72, 73, somewhere in there. Landmark was it really helped me get my head on straight as far as what I needed to do for myself. After I left Landmark, I was at the Harvey School up in Katona, New York. And from there I went to Vermont Academy up in Saxtons River, Vermont. And my senior year, they weren't going to have me come back or graduate. And I had to come back and really pitch it. And it was a real struggle. But I did graduate from there. I ended up getting an associate's degree in a college in Colorado in petroleum technology, worked in the oil fields for a little bit. And then when the bottom fell out of the industry, I worked in the movie and TV business for 20 years, making movies for television. And I left LA probably about 30 years ago. I live in Southwest Colorado now in Durango area. And I'm retired. Also, I'm widowed. And so I've just, one of the greatest joys that I get right now is there's a school out here for children with learning disabilities. And they get to read to me and I can help them. And it's such a great way to give back, but to understand what these kids are going through and just say, you know, I've been through the same thing and you can get through this. It's going to take some work, but don't let anybody beat you down, because you can make a life, you can be successful, and you can take the tools that you learn from this school and apply them to your life. And no, when I saw that old picture of Bob in the 70s, I was like, I know who this guy is. And so Landmark was truly one of my greatest experiences, but it gave me the tools that I needed to do in this world. And then, you know, where my dyslexia really comes into play is sometimes if I go down to the casino, I can't play 21 because I'm under the table counting on my fingers up to 21. So I just stick to poker. But at any rate, Landmark was the best thing that could have happened to me, and it really helped me adjust and letting people know I wasn't stupid. And back then, that's what the label was. And so I'm just seeing Bob again, but just getting the correspondence I get from Landmark. Really, it's really great to know the school as well. And I am going to pass mine off to Gabriella.
Yeah. Great to see you, James. Thanks for all that.
Oh, you're welcome, Bob.
Hi there, everyone. I'm Gabriella Pecoraro. I graduated from Landmark in 2007, started the summer going into 5th grade. So I actually attended from 99 to 07, 8 years, and feel like I never really left. I'm still pretty connected with Landmark, still on the Alumni Council for quite a few years, and now the alumni representative on the board, which is an honor. I've been there for about a year now. I think it's almost hitting. What else? I didn't get to attend the night event, which I'm really excited to attend this event. So I'm glad I have the second opportunity to do that. I thought the night event would actually be a better timing for me, but I guess being able to multitask during work is a great opportunity. I work at John Hancock Manulife's financial services company headquartered in Canada, but would be located in the Boston office, currently in Salem, Massachusetts, and hitting my 10-year mark in June, which is crazy. So I am currently in communications for a global wealth and asset management group, which I think is unbelievable being dyslexic, that I am doing a lot of the executive communications for our CIO, and happy to see some new faces and some individuals that I know pretty well. Danielle, I think you are one of the individuals that I recognize your name, but not your face. So I'd love to get to know a little bit about you.
Thank you. I graduated actually in 1990. And my way of finding Landmark is a little different than a lot of other people. I'm from Seattle, Washington. And one of my family friends actually told us about Landmark College. And so going into my junior year, my mom and I thought, well, let's go out to Vermont. Let's go check out the college. And I was a very headstrong kid where I was like, I have to go to a 4-year college, even though my parents were like, well, there's so many other things you can do. Don't worry, blah, 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 blah. I was a very headstrong person and was like, no, I'm going to a 4-year college. I don't care how I get there. I struggled in high school at the local school. I actually had the principal tell me that I would never graduate from high school. Good luck. I had gone to some alternative schools, but my local high school got to a point where they were like, you've had too many credits from that place. You can't graduate from us. So that's when we went out, we checked out the college. I remember talking to the admissions person in the college, asking if there was any other resources. And they told me about the school down in Beverly. And so us being from the East, West Coast, my mom's like, well, let's just kind of travel around here, do a couple things. I said, no, we're renting a car tomorrow and we're going to Beverly, Massachusetts, and we're knocking on the door and we're talking to the admissions that day. And my mom's like, oh, well, no. And I'm like, no, we're driving and we're going. And we showed up at Landmark. And so I remember talking to the admissions. I remember talking to you, I think, Bob, too. And so come to think of it, as we were all starting to talk, I think there was another family member or something that you ended up knowing, or one of my mom's friends or something. There was a connection. And so it was just kind of cool to, I instantly felt like, wow, this is family. Yeah. And I remember telling my mom right then and there, I've got to come here and I want to know when the next opening is. And I was ready to stay there. And I was ready because I'd found some place that would actually be able to get me the tools to be successful in college and to move forward in my career. And so I was like so excited. And I remember sitting there, and I think it was like October. And I remember sitting there saying, yep, I'm ready. I'm staying here. And, so I ended up joining that January, and I was there for 1.5 years. I went to the prep school my senior year. And I will have to say that I went from a D student to graduating with Honors Society out of Landmark. and that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
From there, I went to Colorado to Regis in Denver. And then I was kind of like, okay, I've been away from home for a long time. I kind of wanted to float back to Seattle. I went to Seattle U, and that was probably the year that I struggled the most. The services that they had at Seattle University was not up to par and was not good services. So from there, I went to Bellingham, which is about 2 hours north of here. The way that you got into Western was you had to get your AA degree first. And so I went to Whatcom, got my AA degree, and then finished out with recreation as my degree. Then I floated over to Florida and worked for the Ritz-Carlton as a concierge for 2 years, and then eventually migrated back to Seattle, and then lived in Las Vegas, had a child in Las Vegas, migrated back to Seattle. So if you haven't gotten the thing, I like to kind of move around. I've been back in Seattle, gosh, I think 11 years now. It's kind of crazy. That's, I have a 16-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I'm married. I started pursuing administration roles, and I was an at-home mom for 7 years. And after that, I decided to go back to work. So I went back to school, got my paralegal certificate, and now I work for a nuclear energy company in the legal department. Our company has been very in the media. It's called Terra Power, and we just won a huge grant from the DOE. So it's incredible.
It's great.
So my journey has been amazing, and all the tools in my toolbox came from Landmark, and it's just amazing that I just wish I could come back out there and give back to Landmark what Landmark gave to me. But I think I do it every day kind of with my kids. So.
Well, Danielle, it's great to see you, and let's keep our present emails flowing as we were communicating. And I remember very well hearing that there was a female student downstairs who came to look and said she's not leaving when you first came to look at the school. But I also remember going to Whidbey Island.
Yes.
And going out on the back deck of the house at Whidbey Island, and there was a great big set of gouges out of the railing on the back deck. And I said to your mother, "What's this?" She said, "Oh, our dog was on the back deck and a hawk came down to get it. So I saw the hawk and I came out and chased it with a broom, and that ripped up the rail." I said, "Well, I'm not in Beverly anymore, that's for sure."
You got to remember how rare girls were at Landmark in the early years.
That's true. Yeah, the ratio wasn't as good as it is now.
Yeah, so I was glad that I made that decision, and was very, I came home and we had to really plead a case to my dad and tell him why he needs to send me to a school that probably costs more than a college. But we financially made it work, and my parents and I have never looked back. So it's been amazing.
It's great to see you.
Good to see you, Bob. Oh, let me pass the baton. Is it Thilo? Oh, no, wait. Are you also an alumni? Or are you on the board?
No, it's my son goes. I'm the chair of the board. I'm going to have a chance to talk in a moment. You should.
Okay, well then I'll pass it to Jeffrey.
Hi, everybody. I went to a Landmark school in 1999 to 2006. I started in 5th grade, boarding at the EMS school, and then right now I'm working for the U.S. Army at Natick Labs, and then also Fort Devens. There I test parts of base camps as far as like battery storage, solar, new life support systems, hospital components, and stuff like that. What else? I live in Massachusetts, and I travel a lot for work, from like Europe to Texas to Alaska, and that's pretty fun. And then that's it, I guess.
I will add that Jeff is a longstanding alumni council member as well. and one of our amazing volunteers.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't say
thanks
that,
for
but
that, Jeff.
I will share it on his behalf.
Okay, thank you. And then did Eric go?
You lose Eric.
Maybe Eric is listening instead. Why don't we, Ryan, why don't you say hello?
I'm sorry, guys. What was the question?
we've got
Sorry,
Eric.
I had to do a quick business call. What's going on?
Oh, you're next.
No, I already went.
He already went.
Oh, he
Yeah,
did.
I didn't tell people I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was from Massachusetts originally, went to Landmark, went to Trinity Pauling School, upstate New York. Good school, by the way. Good school.
Yeah.
4 good years there. Only problem was someone said that there weren't a lot of girls at school. We went to Landmark, and there were almost no schools at Trinity Pauling. That was a rough situation, but we fixed that in college. And then I ran my own business, which I've been doing for a long time now. But someone else, because I already went once, so we're good.
Okay.
I think Ryan needs to go.
Or Steve?
Yeah, I can go real quick. So I recently just graduated like 4 years ago. So I started Landmark in the summer program of my 4th grade year. So it was a long time ago. I then continued to stay at Landmark for the next 8 years plus. They call us Landmark lifers. Much different story than most of you, as you probably went there for a couple of years or you went there for at the beginning of it all. So I got to see it I feel like Landmark at its peak, and it was quite an experience, to say the least. I met a lot of people, made a lot of friends, still talk to a lot of people from my class. I now go to Bryant University in Rhode Island. I'm from Salem, Mass. Here at Bryant, I'm studying finance and marketing, minoring in environmental science. And I run track and field for Bryant right now. So I'm a D1 athlete, which is really cool. Landmark has given me so much, and I just want to continue to learn.
You coming in today, Ryan, so we can race up the hill again?
Yeah, let's go real quick.
Go. Come on.
Yeah, real quick. Has Harvey, I want to hear Harvey's story really bad.
Did we lose him? No, we still have Harvey. Go for it, Harvey.
Hey, Ryan. Thanks. I am from Chicago originally, born and raised. My older brother was a sophomore at Harvard and read about Landmark in the Boston Globe. Called my folks and said, Harvey needs to come out here now. And I literally got on an airplane and showed up on campus. I was there for what should have been a whole summer and was a little shortened to about 10 days. I got in a little trouble and Dr. Drake asked me to go home and figure out my life and figure out what I did. And so I came home. My folks said, after yelling and screaming at me for a couple hours, how disappointed they were that go get a job and you're grounded. It's hard to ground somebody at 18, but I was grounded. So I stayed home, got a job, reapplied in the fall, got back in, thank God. I was there the following winter. So I was there for the following year, graduating in 82. About 20 years later, I took over a family business and sent one of my building engineers to an air conditioning class in New Hampshire. And turned out that he was also an alum that I did not know at EMS. So I flew out there and we went and toured campus and I fell in love again. And I've been involved ever since. I run the facilities committee because I'm a real estate person by nature and by employment. Whether that's good or bad, I'm not sure. In good times, I'm probably there 10 times a year, every 6-7 weeks, for various things, from what we used to have casino night to making ways to touring a facility and trying to figure out what to do to make it better, how to raise money to build facilities. I've been on the board, like Danielle said, for 22 years. And I will embarrass Bob. Bob and I and our spouses went to London to go see and meet with Jackie Stewart, the race car driver, for 4 days. And we were at the train station leaving Mr. Stewart's, or not Mr. Stewart, they called him, I forgot how they referred to him.
Sir Jackie.
Sir Jackie. Thank you, Bob. And we're on the train platform to go back to London, and I left my briefcase in the depot, and we're all standing on the platform. I go get it, and Bob and his wife and a couple other people were on the train, and they left me in the middle of the countryside in suburban London.
What a jerk, man. What a jerk.
You know.
You hear what Harvey said? They left me, as opposed to the conductor started the train moving that we had no control over. And Harvey's on the platform doing this.
Wait. Having no idea how to get back to the hotel, where the hotel was in metropolitan London, but I figured it out. But all kidding aside, it is the greatest place I've ever seen. What they did for me and what they've done for other kids like you guys, alumni, is an unbelievable place. I will pick, is that everybody?
I think we have spoken to everyone. I want to be mindful of time at this point, and perhaps we can pivot to have Bob give us an update on school as it stands, and then we will move over to Thilo to give us an update from the Board of Trustees, and then we can answer questions at the end if anyone has any, but we just want to be mindful of time. So thanks everyone for introducing yourselves and telling us a bit about your stories. I know we all enjoyed it.
Great. Thank you. And I'll be relatively quick. Since we go all the way back to Greg Carney, I'll say that we bought the property where we started Landmark here in Pride's Crossing for about $274,000, 18 acres with a 38-room mansion and carriage house and all the rest, looking over the ocean. And I have a piece of paper that says we then needed to spend $260,000 to get the school open, which included the building of the classroom building for $60,000 and the building of the gym for $70,000, renovating some bathrooms, building out the kitchen. And then the annual budget the first year for all the faculty and staff was $225,000. And we started it with promissory notes to a bank. So move to 2021, we're an institution of 85 million in assets and a $35 million operating budget with 319 employees. So we've grown a little bit. And as you know, we've expanded and contracted and done those things, but we're in a really strong position. And the things that you all knew about that tutorial and skills-based classes and academic advisors, it's all here. We've never varied from the population that comes to the school, and we've never varied from the model that we really believe works, except to bring in neuroscience and research and things that have helped us build it out in more and more ways as we've understood the brain. And this year, obviously, it's been different. COVID hit last spring. However, we have been on campus for in-person education since August, and no residential program this year, but all of the residential students basically stayed involved by moving here or being fully remote. The high school has been on campus every day in a day program, and EMS, because it's a smaller campus, is in hybrid, 1 week on, 1 week off, but the week off fully engaged remotely. So we have been able to be open, and it's because the board has supported us in what we needed to do for ventilation systems and filtration and all the rest. And the faculty and staff, emergency response team have been just amazing in developing the protocols, following the CDC, the Board of Health, all the rest. So now we've had the February break at EMS. We're about to hit a 2-week break for the high school, and we're praying that we'll get to the end of the year having been able to serve our students, which was the goal, in person every day and keep them learning and moving and doing what they need to do. And that's been the drive. And we're planning to open up fully in the fall with boarding again, both campuses open. And of course, we'll pivot if we have to, but we're working on those plans as we speak and getting ready for the fall as well in summer programs. So for those of you who haven't been here for a while, I'd love to have you come out and do a walk around and see the campus and the newer buildings, and then also get that feel for, you know what, this is the same program I attended in terms of the focus on the individual student and how he or she learns. and the program that's designed for them. So I won't talk too much longer, but it's an exciting place to be. And I'm just so excited to see each of you. It's wonderful to have you on the screen today. So.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thilo Henkes is our board chair right now, and father of Rowan, who is a student here. So Thilo will take it over.
Thank you very much, Bob. It's been a pleasure to hear all of your stories here. Great to see you all here on Zoom, and to hear what a transformational place Landmark has been for you, and to hear about your successes since Landmark. And I have a lot of feelings for the place as well. Landmark, my son Rowan started in the 6th grade at EMS, and Landmark has been absolutely transformational for him as well. So I share many of the same sentiments that many of you have articulated. I'd like to talk to you about 5 of the initiatives that are in front of the board, but I'll just give you a quick background on myself. I'm a native of Massachusetts. I come from Boston. I went to Boston Public School, and for high school went to Beaver Country Day School, which is one of the schools that competes against Landmark in sports. And Bob is always reminding me that Landmark beats Beaver at virtually every single sport. I have been a trustee at Beaver. With pleasure, yes. I was a trustee.
We've had some close games. We've had some close games.
A few close games, I guess. Yes, yeah. I was a trustee at Beaver for about 10 years. And then once my son started at Landmark, and I saw Bob giving a presentation to new students and talking about Landmark being a mission with a school. And that conversation, which I'm sure some of you have heard over the years, it just resonated and rang a bell inside my head. And I said, boy, I have to somehow be a part of this school that is doing so much for my son. And so I transferred my trusteeship from Beaver and came over to Landmark. And the beginning of of last year, I then became chair of the board. So it's again a pleasure to meet all of you, and I hope we can all stay in touch. Let me talk to you just very quickly about 5 of the initiatives that I would say in no particular order, not in any order of importance, but 5 initiatives that are in front of the board. The first is to maintain the health and safety of the school through the pandemic. Bob mentioned a number of items there. We have been meeting, the Board of Trustees along with the administrative staff have been meeting on an extremely regular basis to make sure that we can maintain the in-person teaching, right? That is so important to our students. But that has also meant that we've needed to spend money on things like HVAC systems and filters for HVAC systems and plexiglass dividers in the cafeteria and outdoor tents in the fall, and again coming in the spring again, so that we can have some of the classes outside. So there have been a number of things that the Board of Trustees has needed to do with the administrative staff, and also including, by the way, testing. So we are offering free testing to all students, faculty, and staff. It's the pooled testing, where you spit into a little vial, but we are doing testing to make sure that, again, all faculty, staff, and students feel comfortable and feel safe at the school. That has been our primary concern over the past year and remains so going forward. So that's item number 1 on the list. Item number 2 on the list is our head search. You've all seen the email and heard from Bob about his illustrious career at Landmark. Bob is the longest standing head of an independent school in New England. That is quite an achievement. Not only is he a founding instructor at Landmark and then a leader of Landmark, but he is the longest standing head of an independent school. That is quite an accomplishment. And It probably doesn't need to be said, but we're not going to find another Bob. And that should be okay, right? We need to look for the next head. It won't be another Bob, but there is a lot to be optimistic about for Landmark as we think about the future. And we're looking for that next head who will lead us going forward. We have hired a search firm to help us with a search. This will be an international search, by the way, right? We're looking well beyond just New England for the right new head. That search process has begun. Rough brushstrokes in terms of timing. We are still in the process of talking to constituents within the Landmark community, alumni, teachers, current parents, former parents, administrative staff. We want to get everybody's input into what should that next new head's characteristics be. We're in the process of assimilating that. All of you have received also a survey. We would love for you to fill in that survey because we are committed to this search process being an open and transparent process. Okay, so we would love to hear from you. So we're still in that process right now of gathering that information. I suspect we'll probably start to see the search committee will start to see candidates probably in the next month or so. The idea is that come May, June, we have a finalized set list of candidates, and we will be making then the announcement of the new head sometime in the August, September timeframe of this year. That new head would not be starting this coming fall, right? Bob still has one more year thereafter and is then handing the baton to the next head in 2022. We've done that very specifically so that we can announce the new head, but that there is a one-year transition while Bob is still the head and the new head, is finishing up their job or their role or wherever they've been, but there's a year of overlap. It's done very, very specifically because we know that being the head of Landmark is not like any other school that's out there, not like any other institution, not like any other company that's out there. So we need to have that year of transition. That's been very important to us. Item number 3 on the list, diversity and inclusion. This is not just lip service to the diversity dynamic that's going on right in the world today. Landmark is absolutely committed to diversity and inclusion at the faculty level, at the administrative level, at the student level, at the board level. We are looking inward at ourselves and saying, what do we need to do to make sure that we are reflective of society and that we bring the full breadth of experiences and capabilities to Landmark. We're making headway. We have committees at both the EMS and at the high school campus, and we are working also at the board level to on these initiatives for diversity and inclusion. You'll be hearing more about that going forward. Number 4, we have a 50th anniversary for Landmark to be thinking about. And we're working very much on that. Of course, the pandemic has made that difficult, but we have a big birthday party and we are working on how to celebrate those 50 years for Landmark. Number 5 is the strategic plan. The board is very much focused on promoting the strategic plan. There are 4 components to the strategic plan. A, nurturing our human capital. That is our teachers. Teachers are the mainstay here, as all of you have talked about in your presentations, how important that one-to-one teacher-student tutorial is and how important teachers are to defining who you are today. We are looking for ways to make sure that we nurture our teachers here at Landmark. B, advancing language-based learning disorder education and science. Bob mentioned this a moment ago. Landmark has some relationships with some of the finest hospitals and institutions here in Boston and elsewhere. We are doing longitudinal studies to understand the science of the brain, what drives language-based learning disorders, and very specifically, what is the impact of a landmark education long-term on students with language-based learning disorders, the goal being to use that science to help us improve and constantly improve how we do our teaching to students. So there's a science angle to this, right? And that's very important to who Landmark is. And that has also made Landmark over the past 50 years the leading institution, right, in the science of understanding language-based learning disorders. So we're not just a school, we are a leader in the science of understanding how best to teach students with language-based learning disorders. C is fostering our financial stability. As Bob mentioned, you know, we have a significantly larger operating budget than we did 50 years ago. We have a very healthy endowment. What I want you all to know is that we are on very sound financial footing. Despite what has happened during the course of the pandemic, we are on very sound financial footing. There is no risk of Landmark closing its doors because of financial insecurity. Of course, we still need funding. There are many buildings that we would like to upgrade. There are buildings that we would like to build. There are scholarships that we would like to fund so that we can open our doors to students who can't necessarily pay the full tuition. There are many things that we need funding for, so we continue in those fundraising efforts to maintain the financial stability. And lastly, D, enhancing our campus development, which is exactly that, making sure that we maintain all of those buildings and the beautiful campus that is there, because the physical location, the physical campus, as many of you spoke about, is absolutely part of the education. It's not just what you learn in the classroom, but the physical location is also integral to that Landmark experience. So I've spoken probably more than enough here. That's where I'll end. Again, it's a pleasure to meet you all and very happy to answer any questions that folks have.
Thank you, Thilo and Bob, for giving the alums a great update as to where school is and what we hope for the future, and many of the busy planning we've been doing to plan for a successful future. So we do have a few minutes left, so if anyone has any questions, you're more than welcome to ask.
I have one question, but it really has nothing to do with what we just talked about. Bob, behind your desk, on top of the bookcase, is a schooner. Is that the Bowditch?
The When and If.
Yeah.
Is that still in the program?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that was the boat that when the General Patton's family donated the When and If to Landmark, that was the beginning of the Watermark program.
Okay.
And so we used 65-foot Alden schooner, well known around the world. We then had the Tavega. The Nathaniel Bowditch was out of Salem. We used to charter her. So yeah, that was the beginning.
Okay, well, just curious. That's a program that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, that was a great program.
I'd like to add a comment here about the search, if I might. Landmark is to what you guys are now calling language-based, whatever, what I would know as dyslexia.
Right.
And what I think most people would know as dyslexia, actually. It is sort of it is to dyslexia what Perkins is to blindness, or the American School for the Deaf is to the deaf. And I would like to reinforce something I wrote on one of the forms that was sent to me, that it strikes me that it would be good to have a headmaster who had this disability himself, him or herself. It's kind of like having a deaf president of Gallaudet. Okay. We're kind of the public face of an invisible disability in many ways. And it would be great if you could find an alumnus who could take in that role. I don't know if such a person exists. I don't know what the qualification, maybe I ought to apply myself. No. but whatever it would be, I think that's important. I think it's important that the person leading the institution that is seen around the world as the premier, certainly the premier American institution for this problem, and on equal par with those in England, where Landmark got its start because of English. I remember when Bob probably can remember all the imported English teachers we used to get in the summer program. So I think that's important. I believe it's important. I know that there are lots of considerations that go into hiring head of a school, but I think that's one that ought to be looked at.
Interesting consideration, Greg, and thanks for expressing that. To have a personal experience with this struggle would clearly make a big difference for somebody. It adds to the passion, if you will, and the credibility. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I have a further question, and maybe I'm just not familiar with where it is. Outreach. It's been kind of interesting. All of a sudden, in the last probably 3 months, I've had quite a few parents come to me, whether they're friends or friends of friends or friends of my parents' kids. And they've been asking, because they knew that, I have a learning disability, that I went to Landmark. They've been asking, how can they get plugged in, or is there resources for them to pull down and utilize, read, get to know, and then implement themselves? Some of them are in careers, and some of them are elementary, and some of them are in college, and they're struggling, but they don't know how to advocate for themselves. But then they don't have the money to, go out to Landmark College or anything like that. So where is all the outreach? And maybe I'm just not familiar with where to find it.
That's a great question, Danielle. The outreach program, which we started back in the 70s, presently has many different spokes to it. We're working with about 5,000 teachers a year in direct service contracts in public schools. And we're in about 50 school buildings. And with 3 weeks, although shortened this summer, of Institute on campus where people come. We've had as many as 500 educators come on campus. We have programs for parents. We have online programs. So if they go to the website and they look up outreach, or if they have a specific concern and they want to contact the outreach program through Dan O'Hearn or people listed there, we can connect people. And it's parents, it's students, it's teachers. So the outreach program is really quite active, and we're looking to continue to grow that. So as Thilo has talked about, besides the school, when I say it's a mission with the school, we can only serve so many students a year. And we know there are parents and there are educators who are desperate. So the outreach program is a big part of that, as is the research. So if somebody goes on our website and clicks on to outreach, they'll see some of the resources. And if they don't see what they need, they can contact us, and we very often can set something up for them.
Danielle, I'd offer myself as a resource. If there's anything specific folks are looking for, I'm happy to help you navigate the website or our admissions office or outreach. Sometimes there's really specific niche things people are looking for, and our website is robust. So I'm happy to help you if there's specific questions.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, I can't believe it because we are right on the money at 11 o'clock. So I just want to give everyone one more opportunity to ask a question if you'd like.
Bob, I just want to know what your plans are.
I'm going to come out to Los Angeles.
Great. Sounds good.
Well, the year after the new head of school takes over, I'll be continually involved, doing some special projects for the board, helping to finish up the capital campaign of people that I'm connected to, being more involved in that research piece, and various things like that, that just help with the transition so that everybody out there knows that Landmark is still Landmark and we can keep growing what we're doing here and making sure the new head, whomever he or she is the face of Landmark, and I can help make that happen by introducing that person. And then there are some other organizations, like one of our families, the Ansaras, we have the Ansara Athletic Center. They have an organization called Build Health International. If you remember the disaster in Haiti, they went down there and built the biggest hospital in Haiti to help take care of people. And now they're going all through Africa, helping to set up health centers for women, health centers for COVID, respirators, and they're doing amazing work in the world. And I'm on their board. And it's going to give me a little bit of time to sort of be invested in that kind of a cause as well. But my thumbs and my toes and my nose and my emotions will always be involved in Landmark. I know that in whatever capacity I can be helpful. And then there are these other causes that I just haven't had time for that I'll put energy into. So thanks for asking, Liz.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful, everyone. I'm so glad we had a chance to connect here where you are in the world, where your education has taken you, and the different ways you're interested in being involved. As I said, I would follow up this meeting with links to different ways on the website you can be involved. If you have any questions at all, please reach out to myself, Bob, Thilo, Harvey, others. We are all resources for you. And I wish we had more time for Harvey to talk about all the different ways he has been involved at Landmark over the years. But if you're looking for an example of someone who's had his hand in everything, he is certainly it. So if you're looking to get involved and not sure how to do so, yeah. I know Harvey and I'd be happy to have that conversation with you.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thanks, Danielle.
Danielle, thanks for setting this up. And it is just moving to see all of you. It means a lot. Thank you for being a part of this.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everyone. Take good care, be safe, and stay healthy.